These days, most big budget games that get released are sequels. Even the ones that aren't sequels are firmly slotted into a familiar genre, usually open world action RPG. Do I want developers to be given the freedom to make brand new games like 2025's Clair Obscur Expedition 33? Yes. Do I also want sequels to the best games from my childhood? Also yes. I've been alive for more than 3 decades and have witnessed games transition from 2D sprites and 8-bit soundtracks to an era of realistic rendering that looks more like a TV show or movie than a video game. And in that time, a lot of truly fantastic games have been entirely forgotten about.
The world is different now. The old rules no longer apply.
Sometimes publishers just refuse to give gamers the games they want, and I'm breaking down 20 of the best games and franchises that fans believe deserve sequels, ports, remakes, just something new. We'll also be filing each game into a tier list of how likely a new entry is, from any day now to it's never been more over.
Not bad, eh?
For a long time I argued that Banjo-Kazooie was a better overall game than Super Mario 64. I'm now old enough to realise just how absurd that claim was, but it hasn't stopped me from loving Banjo-Kazooie and even Banjo-Tooie. The whimsical and sarcastic world that Rare had created was unlike any other, and surprisingly well developed. Unfortunately, Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts barely counts as a sequel, and I have no idea if we'll ever see Banjo star in a true platforming adventure again. A traditional Banjo experience would be a less expensive venture than Everwild, and should absolutely be what Rare works on next. It's going into the I think there's a chance tier. On launch, Binary Domain was seen as a fairly standard third-person shooter, but it's deceptive. It was actually developed by Ryuga Gotoku Studios, now acclaimed for the Yakuza and Like a Dragon series. It had a hyped and derided voice command feature, but it should be remembered for the trust system, which has your teammates' feelings about you change depending on how you direct them in battle. This ultimately leads to different end sequences, making Binary Domain distinct and memorable for those who actually played it. The Ryuga Gotoku team do like to take on a lot of projects and spread their wings in terms of genres, and there's definitely a world where Binary Domain gets a modern port. That's why it's in the maybe if we ask nicely tier. Ridge Racer's original arcade iteration recently returned with arcade archives on Nintendo Switch 2 and more, so it hasn't been totally forgotten, but the last new Ridge Racer game to receive any kind of critical praise was 2011's Ridge Racer 3D. The last all-original console game was 2012's Ridge Racer Unbounded, and the 2 games since have both been free-to-play mobile fodder. After going back to the arcade original, I found myself hungry for more fast-paced drifting action, and that's exactly why we need a brand new Ridge Racer game. The world desperately needs a new Ridge Racer game, and a traditional drift fest on some tightly designed tracks would be a welcome breath of fresh air. I think there's a chance Ridge Racer can return. Syphon Filter was a premier spy action game in its day, but sadly hasn't had an opportunity for a brand new title in just shy of 20 years. This was the spy action franchise before Splinter Cell rolled around, and competed head to head against Metal Gear Solid. Sadly, there hasn't been a new entry since 2007, and that doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. Although you can play it with PS Plus, Syphon Filter has been forgotten, and it's never been more over.
This world is out of balance.
Before BioWare was known for Dragon Age and Mass Effect, Jade Empire was going to be the studio's big breakout game, a dream project for the studio's founders. That was the intention, at least. Jade Empire fused Chinese mythology and martial arts with BioWare's patented RPG gameplay, and it has plenty of fans that swear by it, but it's been mostly forgotten about now. No matter how much fans plead for a sequel, it's unlikely that BioWare will ever develop a Jade Empire game again. BioWare is not currently in its best era, and it doesn't seem any developers remain that appreciated Jade Empire. There's no way the studio will ever return to this when Mass Effect games are in demand. It's never been more over. Sleeping Dogs might be the best GTA clone ever made. Calling it a GTA clone might sound like an insult, but there have been dozens of attempts and imitators, and only a few made any kind of lasting impact. If you want a lasting impact, you can forget about True Crime or Saints Row. Sleeping Dogs is the game you need to play. This Mafia-inspired open-world adventure shouldn't be missed by anyone that loves cars, guns, and action. It seems Square Enix probably still owns the Sleeping Dogs IP after the closure of the development studio, and Square's interest in Western-developed games has never been lower. Yeah, it's never been more over. Pokémon is an iconic RPG series, but for some reason it's only had one turn-based strategy RPG spin-off. Back in 2012, Tecmo Koei and the Pokémon Company teamed up for Pokémon plus Nobunaga's Ambition, known internationally as Pokémon Conquest. Legendary Japanese historical figures fight to take control of Japan via grid-based strategy combat and Pokémon abilities. This should have become a consistent sub-series and truly deserves a sequel. Pokémon is as big as it has ever been, but a new Pokémon Conquest game on Switch 2 would likely demand a fair amount of development resources that are more likely to get assigned to a new Fire Emblem game instead. Don't hold your breath for Pokémon Conquest. The modern Deus Ex series doesn't even have a true ending, despite receiving overall critical acclaim. Mankind Divided continued the story of human revolution, but only manages to cover half a story arc in its own runtime. Mankind Divided desperately needed a sequel, but even if that's not what we get, Deus Ex still deserves to return to the spotlight. Embracer Group cancelled an in-development Deus Ex game only last year. I do believe the franchise will return, but probably not until Embracer sells their stake in the studio and IP. Don't hold your breath.
I won't let them have the last word.
Impossible Creatures is a slightly absurdist strategy game where you can fuse real creatures into ridiculous fantasy creations. Here, you use Dr. Chanikov's cursed Sigma technology to fuse animals together so you can get fun crossbreeds like tiger sharks, or tiger scorpions, or other animals that aren't necessarily tigers. This game showcased incredible potential, and it could be realised if only it had another chance. Microsoft might own Impossible Creatures, but they're not currently in the business of taking big risks, as recent layoffs prove. It's never been more over for Impossible Creatures. Beyond Good and Evil is an iconic and beloved game, and despite the fact that we've seen a lengthy gameplay video from the sequel, I'm not so sure it'll ever actually release. Beyond Good and Evil 2's debut trailer looked incredible, as did the follow-up gameplay demonstration, but it's been more than 7 years since then, and only last year the game got a new creative director. That's a sign that the game is in development hell, and even if it does eventually launch, it might just be another Skull and Bones situation. I think there's a chance that Beyond Good and Evil returns. The original game did recently get a 20th anniversary edition port after all, but Beyond Good and Evil 2 probably won't launch in a form that we recognise, if it ever does. F-Zero is an electrifying racing game, and Nintendo doesn't seem to think we need another one. Mario Kart 8 got F-Zero themed DLC, and the Fast series, the latest being Switch 2's Fast Fusion, acts as a spiritual successor, but nothing comes close to the GameCube's F-Zero GX. Not even the same game being emulated on Nintendo Switch Online. F-Zero 99 on Nintendo Switch and F-Zero GX on Nintendo Switch 2 proves Nintendo knows people love F-Zero, but a new F-Zero game releasing on Switch 2 doesn't seem too likely. I think there's a chance, but it's not a big one. There are 3 original Earthbound games, known as Mother in Japan, but Mother 3 has never been officially translated. Some difficult subject matter has prevented its release despite multiple teasers over the years, and fans that have played it say it's truly incredible. Undertale and Deltarune act as spiritual successors, but fans still want an official Earthbound 3 release and a true sequel from Shigesato Itoi. Unfortunately, the man himself said in 2013 that a new game would be impossible. Sadly, it's never been more over for the Earthbound series and Mother 3 in English. Vagrant Story is a unique action RPG from the PS1 era that is made by the team responsible for Final Fantasy Tactics. It has the same heavy story beats and subject matter, but from a totally new perspective. It might not carry the Final Fantasy brand name, but Vagrant Story is part of the Ivalice Alliance and shares its world with 12, Tactics, and even 14's Stormblood expansion. Square Enix has done a reasonably good job of remastering and porting classic games, and Vagrant Story absolutely deserves a modern update. Still, don't hold your breath. A collaboration between Konami and Platinum Games, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance was a bombastic action-adventure for Metal Gear Solid 2's legendary cyborg ninja Raiden. It might have taken years to actually release, but this game helped cement the team at Platinum as masters of the character action genre. It's still worth playing even now, and absolutely deserves a sequel. Platinum Games is a gun-for-hire studio now that will make any game a publisher asks, and Konami is reinvesting into AAA games. I think there's a chance that Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance makes a return. What needs to be said about Bloodborne? This is the game so good that Sony is keen to remind us that it owns the brand, but seemingly doesn't want to actually make a new entry, or even update or port the PS4 version. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure it'd take a lot of effort and development time, but it'd be more exciting than 9 out of 10 of Sony's recently announced games. At this point, it doesn't matter if it's a sequel, a port, or a remake, just please make Bloodborne happen. Any day now, we'll get Bloodborne. Any day now. Mark my words. I'm not in denial.
Soon, this school will be ours.
I don't want the school.
Yeah, well, I do, pal, and I intend to get it.
This one might not be possible in 2025, admittedly. Bully was basically Grand Theft Auto, but in a school setting. You're not a school bully, you're more of a school anti-hero, and you'll be getting involved in all manner of trouble while attempting to get good grades. It's a very unique vibe, unlike any other Rockstar game, and that's why fans still want a sequel. I don't think it'll ever happen though. There's no way Rockstar brings back Bully. Sorry, it's never been more over. These agents are elite and they stay on beat. In Japan, this is a fairly different game known as Oendan. There, it even got a sequel. The dream would be to get Elite Beat agents and the Oendan games on a Switch 2 compilation, along with a true sequel down the line. If you've played the likes of Rhythm Heaven, then you'll know just how good Elite Beat Agents is, and if that game can get a new entry on Switch 2, then Elite Beat Agents can too. If Rhythm Heaven can return on Switch 2, then maybe Elite Beat Agents can too. Maybe if we ask nicely. Titanfall 2 includes one of the best single-player shooter experiences of all time, while also being bundled with one of the best multiplayer shooter experiences of all time. It has an incredibly high skill ceiling, but it's immensely replayable. Titanfall is a genuinely fantastic series. We love Apex Legends too, but it's not Titanfall, and it never will be. If EA were a benevolent publisher, it would let Respawn make Titanfall free. Respawn is a busy development studio, and sadly that busy schedule doesn't seem to leave any room for Titanfall free. Don't hold your breath for this one. Skies of Arcadia is a beloved Dreamcast RPG that later got an enhanced GameCube port, and it simply hasn't been seen since. The world of Arcadia was genuinely memorable, filled with pirates that sail their ships through the skies to disconnected floating islands, and it came with an equally memorable storyline. It's an incredibly charming world, and one of those rare RPG classics that has never seen again. Sega should absolutely give Skies of Arcadia a modern port, but don't hold your breath for it. Nothing else needs to be said. 2020's Half-Life Alyx was a great return to the world of Half-Life, but we need a true sequel. Rumours indicate that Valve is indeed cooking one up, but when will we see it? Will we ever see it? Or is Gordon Freeman's liberation of City 17 doomed to never come to pass?
I wouldn't believe it if I couldn't see it with my own eyes. Dr. Gordon Freeman himself.
If you're a Valve fan, you can pretend this entry includes Portal, Team Fortress, and Left 4 Dead 2. I don't think we're going to get sequels to any of those anytime soon. Half-Life is definitely going to get a new game any day now. They'll skip straight to Half-Life 4, and it's going to be great. If you have enjoyed this video, please give us a like and let us know in the comments exactly what games you wish would get a sequel first.